It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hibb.
Welcome to another beautiful Sunday morning in the Ozarks. You know, it's always a beautiful day when you wake up on the right side of the grass, right? But it's an even better day when that morning begins with Watts on Wealth, featuring the founder of the Wealth Care Corporation, the Springfield-based retirement planning and tax strategy ecosystem. Barry Watts began this firm 33 years ago. Today, he's in our Watts on Wealth studio, along with his very smart protege, retirement designer, Jeremy Zickefoose. So, Barry and Jeremy, welcome. Welcome to 2026, and let's get another program started here. How are you?
Well, thank you, Ralphie. We're doing great. Does
Good.
Call you
Good.
Ralphie?
They did when I was little.
Oh, okay. Well, you can return to that in these relaxed, non-professional days. But here you are broadcasting the word Ralphie to the whole world. So maybe that's not such a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah. Plus, if everybody saw that movie, A Christmas Story, which they show, 50 times over the holidays with Ralphie?
The question is, did you have the Red Ryder BB gun?
Oh, I did. I had a gun like that. I had a 22 and a little something on top. I had an over and under Remington. Yeah, I did. What was your favorite? What was your favorite weapon for both of you?
I've got a BB gun that has sat in our hearth room at my house for probably 25 years in the corner.
Yeah.
It was a gift to the girls originally, and I don't know that they ever used it very much, shot some targets. I usually use it to shoot ducks because the ducks like to come off the pond around the house and try to go to the pond, to the swimming pool behind the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use the little spring-loaded BB gun to shoot ducks, and all it does is you just hear it go poof when it hits their feathers, and they fluff their feathers a little bit, and they go on their merry way. So anyway, who had any idea that our show was going to start today with BB guns and shooting ducks and all those kind of things? But that's just the exciting part of being on Watts on Wealth. Aren't you thrilled about that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm glad to be here again.
I could tell you where. And what is your favorite weapon, by the way?
Oh, favorite weapon? Well, gosh, I don't know about that. I got a new 300 blackout, but that'll definitely kill a duck. So
yeah. See, I don't even know what that is, but I think it shoots something big.
Oh, now we're getting into
not exactly.
You know, guys, I will transition that. We're going to take aim at 2026 and try to hit the bullseye on retirement planning. So I can throw that statement in there. And
is he a professional or what? Wasn't that smooth?
Really good.
What do we
got
call
us right back on topic. Gonna hit the bullseye.
The old segue of let's begin with the market and anything. I would say, Barry and Jeremy, you're free to mention anything on Venezuela. The political takeover, the United States is going to get quite a bit of oil and quite a bit of cash from the oil. And I'll segue into what will the stock market do with that news, or in general, where are we beginning this year, guys?
Well, the stock market obviously had a great 25. And so I feel really good about that. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen in 2025. Now, as we look forward to 2026, I have a problem. And the problem is my crystal ball is broken. How's yours, Jeremy?
It's in the shop.
It's in the shop. Okay, so our crystal balls are in repair. But I've always heard that even a stopped clock is right twice a day.
That's true.
So I don't think the fact that our crystal ball is in repair should keep us from pontificating about what we think is going to happen in the economy and the markets. And I'll start by saying that the economy is in really good shape. Inflation has been tamed, at least for now. And the stock market certainly has been booming, and there's every reason to think it will continue to do that. Yet people on the street, in my opinion, are a bit gloomy. And I think one of the reasons they are so gloomy is because it just costs a whole lot more to live than it did 2 years ago or 5 years ago, or don't even get me talking about 10 years ago. Prices have risen to a level where people just can't participate in the economy as much as they once would. One of the things that Kelly and I are always surprised about, we tend to go out to eat for dinner often, and the restaurants are just not as full as they used to be. There's lots of space. And so I think prices have risen to the point that people can't participate as much as they want to. And then I think we have the toxin of politics. And of course, we get into politics a lot on this show. We're going to talk about your favorite president in just a moment, President Trump, and some of the things that he's done. He's my favorite president. In fact, he's our only president at the moment. So he'll have to be our favorite president for the moment. But politics is kind of toxic. And so I think that shuts people down. And what happens is there's two things to consider here. One is, what are the facts? And the other is, how do people feel? That's the emotional side of it. And people are mostly emotional. And instead of being emotional, I think we want to just focus on the facts. And the facts, Jeremy, are pretty good looking into 2026.
What are the facts, Barry?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to consider about what's going to happen in 2026 is the Federal Reserve is going to continue to cut rates. That's the indication they've given us, and that's what we expect to see. And cutting rates is always good for the stock market because it means that capital is more available to businesses, and businesses then can borrow money to invest and grow and expand and all those kinds of things. We obviously got some tax breaks that were continued on into 2026 from the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we're beginning to see a tremendous amount of spending on a topic that's of particularly interest to me, AI. Some people well, do you know what AI stands for?
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's what they say. We're going to come back and talk about it in a different way in just a moment. But the interesting thing is in AI, in 2024, as a country, we spent $152 billion on AI. Whew. Last year, we spent $365 billion on AI.
That's over double.
So, yeah, it's ramping up really fast. And what that means is, here's a prediction for you from Barry. Since my crystal ball is broken, I'll give you this one too. We're going to see as much change in the next 10 years as we have in the past 100 years.
Ooh, wow. That's
Think
bold.
back 100 years ago, 2026. No, 1926.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that something?
1926. Wow. Ralph, most of our families were still plowing behind horses in 1926.
They were.
Didn't have cars. In the next 10 years, you'll see more progress than you've had in the past 100 years. And a lot of that is going to be about AI. So let's talk about AI for just a moment. AI doesn't stand for artificial intelligence as much as it stands, I think, for amplified intelligence. It's not about thinking that is artificial. I mean, that notion doesn't even work, artificial intelligence. It's about taking all the intelligence that you have and 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 putting it all together in one place in one brain to do the thinking for you. And the place that is happening now that most people are most familiar with is a thing called ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. And I used to know what GPT stands for. I looked that up once because it confuses me and I don't remember. Do you remember, Jeremy?
I have no idea what that stands for.
It means something. But ChatGPT that you've got on your phone or you can have on your phone, there's an app if you want it. ChatGPT has an IQ of 148 currently.
Wow.
And its IQ grows every year because there's more information that gets loaded into ChatGPT so it continues to learn. But right now, ChatGPT is a genius at 148. You know, Jeremy, my IQ is, I don't know, somewhere around 130.
Wow.
It's been measured from time to time. Yours is going to be pretty similar to that. Most of the folks who graduate kind of top of the class are going to be 128, 130, 132, something like that, unless you're in a class with somebody who's smart as ChatGPT. So here's the thing about ChatGPT that I think that you might find interesting, and it's simply this. ChatGPT has passed something called the CFA Level 3. There's a thing we do in our industry called Certified Financial Analyst, and there are different levels of tests, and the highest level of test is Level 3. And of all the people who try to get into the CFA Level 3 program, only 20% of those who apply for it actually pass the test. AI, ChatGPT, actually passed it in just a handful of minutes. So the thing that 80% of people flunk, ChatGPT handled with no problem at all. So I think that's just an interesting phenomenon that tells us sort of how intelligent and how fast ChatGPT can process things.
Barry, do you think we're going to be out of a job because of that?
Well, I don't think so. You know, there are people who say there will be no need for financial planner advisor type people.
Yeah, you can have your whole retirement planned and designed by the computer that you have.
By the computer who doesn't know you, and the computer who doesn't care about you, and the computer who doesn't understand the nuance of your situation, why maybe you need to treat this child a little bit differently than that child, and maybe that child's got a different problem than that. Or like the client that you had come see you one time who didn't want his wife to know that he had millions of dollars because she was a spender and he was afraid the money would all be blown up, and he was a later in life marriage, and he just managed to never tell her about his millions of dollars. ChatGPT can't handle those sorts of things. So I think AI is not going to compete for us. I think what AI is going to do instead is AI is going to partner with us, and it's going to help us do things faster, process things more quickly. And I heard someone say recently that AI is to investors today what building railroads was to the United States in the 1800s.
Right.
So imagine if you could go back today and buy stock in the railroads in the 1800s. That's the way you get rich.
Oh, yeah.
In those days. So I think that's an opportunity for us these days. It doesn't mean there's no risk. There's going to be some risk, but there's also a lot of opportunity. I think it's going to be really big for investors. You know, what we are doing, though, Jeremy, with the clients that we work with who we're helping with their retirement is we're moving minority positions, small amounts of their assets into AI type companies. You know, Facebook is an AI company, for example.
Yeah.
And so Amazon is an AI company driven by artificial intelligence.
I didn't know that.
That's how they feed you all that information to buy things that they heard you talking about. And then suddenly it pops up there. So, yes, here's something I think is kind of interesting. Over the years, what I've heard said over and over, and what I taught myself early on in my career, 3 decades ago, a generation back before you were born, is we used to teach people to invest internationally. Well, you should have some domestic and you should have some international. I just want you to know today that's a bunch of baloney. And if you're working with an advisor who talks to you about domestic and international, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And here's why. Let me tell you about some U.S. companies that are actually international companies. Coca-Cola. Can you get more American than Coca-Cola? 65% of its business is overseas.
Wow.
Not in the United States.
The majority.
There you go. Microsoft, out in Seattle. Microsoft, 48% of its business is international. Apple, everybody's got an Apple phone. There are 2 of them sitting on our desk right here in the studio at this moment. 56% of its business is international. And so the point that I want to make to you is this. A lot of the advice you get is right out of the 1960s and 70s, when obviously having some money invested internationally was important. But it's not important anymore because the companies operating in America today are international companies the very first day that they are born.
So there's some old ideas, some old technologies that maybe we need to start pivoting, changing our strategy, and looking at some new ideas and new technologies like AI.
That's exactly the point. And that's why I'm comfortable moving to AI. I've been hearing people say, well, you know, I think technology is due for a correction. And I'm not saying it's not, that technology prices might go down. But just ask yourself, do you think you will have more technology in 10 years or less than we have today?
Oh, more.
I think we'll have more. And therefore, investing in technology kind of things is where we need to be. So that's a little review of the markets, my thoughts on where it could go. I'll paraphrase it and finish up by saying this. I could be wrong. My wife says I am all the time. So we'll see what the real answer is. Obviously, there are things we can't accommodate and count for. We don't know what tariffs are going to come in from Trump, who tweets the 3 big T's. But there's nothing in the economic recipe that's troubling me right now.
All right. We've thrown a lot of numbers at you folks of global international AI. And here's a number for you, 417-200-3500. That's the phone number to reach out to Barry and Jeremy on your cell phone, probably from Apple, 417-200-3500. This is Ralph Hipp with Jeremy Zickefoose and Barry Watts on the Watts on Wealth radio show. Time for a pause, and we'll be back in a moment.
Explore how Barry Watts can support your financial aspirations. Set a consultation by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Discover the possibilities at 417-200-3500 with a simple VISIT text.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
For a more confident retirement journey, get Barry Watts' WealthCare Kit. Discover strategies addressing life's biggest retirement obstacles. Request yours by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Again, that's KIT to 417-200-3500.
Welcome back in this Sunday morning and all kinds of discussion of 2026 and the news headlines with the wisdom of Barry Watts and Jeremy Zickefoose, Watts on Wealth. I mentioned earlier Venezuela, and that was kind of an under-the-radar thing. President Trump was watching the capture of President Maduro in real time. Not a lot of people knew about it. He saw it. It was executed according to plan. And let's talk about that. But Barry, does the Venezuela change, and they've gone to the vice president now, does it really affect our retirement accounts in the Ozarks and your financial planning to help them out?
Well, the Venezuela event, whatever you think about that politically,
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a big deal. I mean, when we march into another country and put the president of that country in handcuffs and march him out, man, that's a pretty big deal. I'm not exactly 100% understanding of the legality of all of those things. But the thing that I do think is really interesting, in the light of a big deal like that, the stock market here in the United States didn't even twitch, not even a little bubble. And so there's a little lesson in that for us, which is that these big seeming geopolitical events aren't necessarily the big deal that we thought they were. I'm reminded of a client who sends us lists quite regularly. And when I say lists, I mean like a page and a half of line notebook paper written on every line with his questions. And he may have 20 or 30 questions. And he might, he didn't send this in that I know of, but he might send in a question, hey, is the invasion of Venezuela and the capture of the president, what's that going to do to the futures of oil prices of West Texas crude come March when travel begins? He sends us questions like that all the time. The answer is, I don't know. I'm not even trying to know. But what I do know is it was a pretty big deal to go in and march a president out in handcuffs, and the stock market didn't flinch. And the lesson is that things like that are noisy, but they aren't a crisis economically. Now, having said that, here's a little advice for you. I wouldn't buy the Caracas Stock Exchange right now, but I wouldn't have bought it before either. I don't think that's a very safe place to have our money invested. And I'll just tell you that I don't think your 401k probably has any Caracas Stock Exchange in it. And if it did, it would be a tiny fraction, probably less than 1%. So while we don't know the politics behind whether Trump could do what he did, although he did it, so apparently he can do it, I think it's something for us to think about in terms of the safety of the region. And that's arguably why he did that. But it's also something for us to think about economically, because Venezuela's number one export is oil. And all of us are enjoying the use of petroleum. By the way, over Christmas, I bought, so this is going back, not quite a month yet. I bought gas at like $1.93 a gallon.
Oh, yeah.
And I turned around and it's like $2.25. Then just a couple of days later. So that was kind of fun. I expect we're probably going to see more for that. I think the Venezuela issue will free up oil from down there. I think that that'll be good for consumers who are able to buy gasoline at the pump in the long term. Now, in the short term, I don't know. There could be a spike in gas prices if Venezuela is able to clamp down on supply, but I don't think they're going to do that because they need the money. But, Jeremy, there's a whole nother way to think about this, because we're really talking about what's going to happen in the economy, what's going to happen in the stock market, all because of Venezuela. There's another topic that's more important than what's going to happen in the stock market or what's going to happen to oil prices for retirees. And that topic is
probably income.
Yeah. See, the issue isn't what's the stock market going to do. The issue is what's your income going to do? Because income is more important than the stock market. And so retiring investors should be putting down a deep anchor, a deep foundation into the earth of their retirement as an anchor, and that anchor should be income, retirement income. You should be focusing more on cash flow as a retiree than you are on growth of your portfolio. And now I'm a guy who's really in favor of growth of portfolio, but I also really like income. And so I know recently we saw some offerings for one of our clients when we put it out to bid in the marketplace that came back. We had some private lending organizations around the U.S. who were offering 8 and 10, one of them as high as 11 or 12%. I can't really remember. And so my point is that's the kind of stuff that retirees should be considering for a part of their portfolio. And if your advisor is not bringing you opportunities that look and smell like that, then you need to ask whether or not you're working with the right guy. A lot of advisors are only bringing in clients right now 4%-ish CDs or 4%-ish bonds, and there's a lot more opportunity in the world out there. And so you ought to be looking for those opportunities, seeing how they fit, understanding what risk is embedded in those, because every investment has risk of some type. We always like to say, yep, you could lose money. But, most people don't. And the reason that we diversify and that we don't put all the money into one thing, but will put it into 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 different things is because if one of those things goes up, belly up on us, we still got the other 11 things that are still good and strong for us. And then, Jeremy, one of the things that we do when we're working with clients is we work with an area of investment called protected principal. And I always think back to that one particular client that we had a little over a year ago where he had set some protected principal up, and he didn't really like the protected principal because generally it doesn't grow quite as fast as stock market kind of stuff. But his wife really loved the protected principal, and so there was that tension in the room. And what really broke it loose for them is we sat down and did the math and figured out that if the stock market went down on them today, and it went down so much that they didn't want to take money out of their accounts because the market was down so much, that they had 21 years worth of protected principal income sitting in their accounts before they would ever have to touch their stock market investments. So they were protected. Their income was protected for 21 years. That means if you retire at 65, you're not going to have to worry about your income until you're 86 years old.
Wow, that would make me be able to sleep at night.
Well, it would probably help you sleep at night. And think about this. Do you suppose your stock market investments, even if they go sideways a little bit, do you suppose that they will figure out what they need to do to correct themselves and that they'll get corrected somewhere in the next 21 years?
Oh, for sure.
I was thinking about emotional investing and how all the news is emotional. I was thinking about a client we used to have this client. We don't have him anymore. He's from Marshfield. I don't know if you remember this guy. He took his Roth IRA. We had helped him get some money into a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
He took his Roth IRA up to the bank and put it in because the bank was offering him, I don't know, I think it was like 4% interest.
It was like 3.9.
By the way, his Roth IRA, had he left it invested as we had it planned last year, would have earned him about 16% interest. Now, of course, the reason he went to the bank is because he was scared. He was believing the breaking news. And so I just want to say that that's an example of what happens when you let your emotions get in control. And I don't know, maybe it wasn't the breaking news he was scared of. Maybe the teller at the bank was single and cute because I know he was a single fella. So I suppose he could have been led astray by that. But the big lesson here is that the biggest risk isn't Trump or Venezuela. It's making a panic move based on fear. And history has proved over and over and over again that's a mistake. Discipline wins over reacting to the news. And by the way, that's why when COVID hit back in 2020, we did not sell out when COVID hit. Even though the news was bad, the metrics, the financial metrics said don't do that. So what we wind up doing is, in light of breaking news and all the excitement like Venezuela, Jeremy, we wind up holding people's hand. You had a phone call I overheard just this past week of a client needing their hand held. Obviously, don't tell her name, but just tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, well, some people just, you get into a little rut in life sometimes where, one thing goes wrong and when it rains, it pours and it piles on one after another and another and another. And this was just one of the sweetest ladies I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And she had, worked really hard getting everything saved up for her retirement. She's still working. She's in her early 60s, but we had finally built a plan that was going to help get her. I don't think we got her all the way to age 100 when we had done all of the math. I want to say we got her to her early to mid 90s. But that was a significant improvement because when she came in and we ran the numbers based on her current path, how she was invested and her, not having a plan for taxes, well, she was running out in her late 70s. So a big difference.
Tax planning extended the life of her money from 70s to 90s.
Tax planning, tweaking up her investment strategies, pulling funds out of the right account, when optimizing her Social Security benefit, a lot of different things factored in.
So it all sounds good. What was the panic then that hit her this week?
Oh, well, it's just life. She had dental work, and so that was going to cost about $7,000. Yeah. She had a car impounded, and so that was a handful of hundreds of
She'd
dollars.
been drinking downtown?
No, she had not. But she had left it. A car had broken down, and she left it somewhere that should not have. She had another car and completely forgot about it. And life had gotten crazy. Christmas happened.
That really tells me a lot. If you could forget about your car, that may speak a lot to her life. I don't know.
Yeah, and she also had a family member pass away.
Okay.
And so she was paying for funeral costs.
Yeah.
And so it just all hit this huge whirlwind of, oh, darn it. Now I'm going to have to pull money out of this, out of my, investment accounts premature when she didn't plan on it. And so it was just a lot of handholding of making sure that, okay, can we run the numbers, see how that's going to affect you long term? Will you still be able to retire the way that you want to and be okay? And that's what we want to be able to help, people have, is that confidence that even when life throws you a curveball, you will still be all right. Let's make a plan that can have some wiggle room there. And also, in her case, I think a big chunk of it that could have helped avoid this as a problem is make sure you always have a 6-month living expense so that when stuff goes wrong, you do have some funds in the bank ready to be used instead of having to pull money out of a retirement account that's going to be subject to possible taxation and possible early withdrawal penalties.
So the point is, the upset thing happened. She had this death in the family. Her car got impounded. And then you were able to show her that after resolving those upsets, her money was still going to be fine to get her to the same age in her late 90s. It wasn't the big thing that she was so upset about. And you could hold her hand and kind of help her find some calm.
Exactly. She thought it was going to blow up everything, and I let her know that it was a small little hiccup, but we can still make some small adjustments to make very positive impacts later down the road.
That's very interesting. And my car being impounded is going to blow up everything.
Ooh.
Now, there are people who live in that world, but not our client. And so it's funny that she just couldn't get her brain around that. Well, that's really what you do as a retirement designer, is you're the rock that people lean on. And the person they come to when they're not sure, and they talk through their problems to determine whether or not they're going to be able to still hit their goals, retire on time, and achieve what they wanted to with the sitting on the porch money hitting their bank account every month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That leaning on the rock for support, that's totally biblical there, Barry. A nice reference there. That's exactly what you help do. And we're going to take a little break here.
I'll sing you that old song.
Sing me that song. We're going to take a break here.
Standing on the rock, on the rock of ages.
Yeah,
safe from all the storms that rages. Rich
it's biblical,
love,
folks.
I'm rich, not from Satan's wages. I'm standing on the solid rock.
Album coming soon.
There you go. And friends, the unexpected is built into the plan when you get tied in with Barry for the 6 steps to retirement confidence. So you can begin that in 2026. It begins with that phone call to in Springfield, and call us from Joplin too. We'd love to hear from you. 417-200-3500 to have your own conversation with Barry Watts, and possibly more than likely with Jeremy Zickefoose too at the Wealth Care Corporation. Okay, this is Ralph Hipp. Time for a pause, and don't go far. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Unsure of how market volatility might impact your investments? Speak with Barry Watts, who can offer strategies tailored to withstand market fluctuations. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry Watts today. Again, text VISIT to 417-200-3500. Prepare for retirement with key insights from Barry Watts' Wealth Care Kit. Get your essential guide by texting KIT to 417-200-3500 and start planning today. That's 417-200-3500, KIT.
Welcome back in this Sunday morning. We hope you make it a habit at your house as you're watching our television program, getting ready for church, that you listen to the Barry Watts Radio Show. This is your host, Ralph Hipp, the former KSPR anchorman from long ago and far away. We were out on St. Louis Street with Channel 33 back then, and with Jeremy Zickefoose of the Wealth Care Corporation. We're talking over stuff. We're talking over 2026 as we get into year 2 of Trump term 2, and the GWT. Now, we've got the DJT, the Donald J. Trump. Guys, what is the GWT that we're going to talk about in this part of the show?
Well, it's not the GWB, the George W. Bush. It's the GWT, which is the Great Wealth Transfer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Great Wealth Transfer. And that's where money is moving from the baby boom generation, the wealthiest generation ever, to their heirs, mostly their children. Now, an interesting thing here, Ralph, you're a baby boomer. I am a baby boomer.
Yeah.
Young Jeremy is not a baby boomer. In fact, Jeremy's mother isn't even a baby boomer. What generation are you? Do you know? I've lost all my track
honestly,
of those.
I'm right on the line, and I forget which one I am.
X or Y or Z or
I don't know.
I don't know. How
I don't
that all
honestly
works
really
anymore.
care.
Well,
but-
anyway. So the boomers, we all know who the boomers were. Those are the people who now, the oldest boomers are turning age 80. The youngest boomers are 60-ish because I'm on the tail end of being a boomer here at 62.
All right.
And so what's happening now is as they turn age 80, this is the decade between 80 and 90 when most of them will die off. And they're going to transfer that wealth to the next generation. And it's estimated that about $124 trillion. Stop and get your mind around that for a moment. $124 trillion will transfer. And that's going to be good for all the heirs who are receiving that and the children of the boomers. But the interesting thing is there's enough money in motion here that the government has started looking at that and saying, if we could get our hands on some of that money that's transferring, well, then we could use it to pay some of the government's debts. And so this is a big deal with governments trying to figure out how to get a piece of the great wealth transfer. So if governments are going to get in on the action, how are they going to do that? Well, one of the ways they're going to do it is through death taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people say, well, I'm not going to be exposed. I don't have to worry about that. Hang on, maybe you do. But the first tax that is associated with death taxes is the estate tax. When you die, having to pay estate taxes. And it's always interesting to me, people who come in thinking that they inherited, $400,000 from mom and dad, and they think, I've got to pay estate taxes on that. No, you don't have to pay estate taxes on $400,000. In fact, your mother can pass on $15 million to you, and your dad can pass on $15 million to you, $30 million total, and there will be no estate tax to be paid. So for most people, virtually everyone who's listening to our show today, estate taxes is not going to be a problem. For those for whom it is a problem, there are some tools that we can bring to the table and help that we do from time to time. But most people aren't going to have an estate tax problem. What most people have is a death tax problem, and that's where the taxes must be paid on, for example, your retirement accounts. So you die with $1 million in your retirement account and you feel good about it. I left $1 million for my kids. And no, you didn't. You left $600,000 to your kids and you left $400,000 to Uncle Sam.
Yep.
And all of those taxes must be paid, and your kids are going to have to pay those taxes.
But with whose dollars?
Is it your dollar? Is it the kids' dollars? I don't know. But the point is, today taxes are as low as they've ever been.
Mm.
So why would we not choose to pay those taxes at today's lower rates rather than waiting on taxes to go higher so that we then would pay those taxes at future rates that are higher than they are today? If the tax is going to have to be paid, let's pay it and get it out of our life. You and I just had a case this past week where we worked with a client to take one little step, and the step cost him over $900,000 in taxes.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, it hurt. But you know what the client said about it? He said, I realize I've got to pay him, and the only way is to get this out of my system so I can move on into a tax-free world. Mm-hmm. And so he said, let's do it.
Well, and when you do the math and show that, hey, by helping, I know it stinks to goodness, pay $900,000 in taxes, but when that can help save you, $5 to $10 million in taxes, well,
future taxes.
Yeah, future taxes.
So by paying it today, even though it's a big bite, it took care of a big pain in the future.
Oh, huge pain in the future, especially if tax rates rise.
Well, here's why I think this is such a big deal to our government. The government is careening right now toward a great ditch, bigger than the Grand Canyon. Have you seen the Grand Canyon?
Yes, I have. Beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it's in such a Spartan sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, by the way, I had this idea that I was going to hike the Grand Canyon.
Oh.
Yeah, I've aged out of that.
Probably not.
It's just not going to happen. But it would have been a neat idea.
Mm-hmm.
So Grand Canyon is quite beautiful. And the government is driving our country toward a ditch bigger than the Grand Canyon with all the spending that's going on, with all the printing of money, which is deflating and devaluing your dollar. It's a financial cataclysm. And so if the government would tax all of this wealth as it transfers at the 30% rate, the government would raise $37 trillion in tax revenue. Well, here's something kind of interesting, Jeremy. You know how much the government owes today?
I think they owe about $38 trillion.
That's right. So just taxing the great wealth transfer at 30% would pay off all the government's debts. About 97% of the government.
Majority of it, yeah.
So you can see where they get the idea that maybe this would be a good idea. It's simple. We're going to tax all that wealth as it transfers, and then we'll have our debts paid off.
And what's sad is that then just gives Congress and everyone else in the government to just kind of have free reign to say, well, I guess we can keep spending frivolously and printing more money, and because you know what? You and me are going to pay for it.
Well, there's the point. I'm not in favor of them taxing this wealth as it transfers, but it would be more palatable if Congress would all get down on their knees and say, we've learned our lesson. We promise we'll never lead the country this way again. We'll never spend this money this way
again. We won't go over budget.
We won't go over budget. We'll have a budget. We won't go into debt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No.
You know. So the point is, keep your hands off the great wealth transfer. Leave our money alone. That's a message to you, Congressman Burleson. Now, I know my buddy Eric has already heard that message. He gets it clear. In fact, I had lunch with Eric last Wednesday about 12 hours. About 12 hours before Donald went down and captured Maduro, Eric and I are sitting at the Mexican restaurant having dinner, in fact. Not that
and now he didn't know, Barry, Eric didn't know anything about it, correct?
No.
They're being briefed.
No, the only person I know of that Trump asked about it was Mamandani, the new mayor of New York. Because he told everybody that he had been briefed on it, as if he had secret top clearance, and he had to come back later and say he didn't have any clearance, and Trump hadn't called him and asked permission.
Yeah. Ouch.
And there was another congresswoman, I don't know who it was, that she stood up and said that the president can't do this without checking with me first.
That's a bold statement.
Really?
The president?
If you'll watch these people talk, oh my goodness, it's hard to believe you could elect people this incompetent. And here's the other thing I would say to you in the 7th District of Southwest Missouri. I don't think you know how good you got it in Eric Burleson. He is an extremely solid citizen, a sound thinking individual with all the right ideas. Now, he's in a mess up there because it's a messy place to be. But we had a lot of conversations about a number of things, healthcare being one of them, which is kind of a pet topic to me, and about the solution he's offering for healthcare. And it works something like this. He says that what you should have is you should have an account that works like a health savings account. Mm-hmm. And your employer puts money into that account just like they would put money into your 401k.
Your 401k, sure.
And that money would not be taxed when it comes into your account. And then you could add money to that account as well, up to a total of, I believe you said, $25,000 a year.
That's a lot.
So then this is what he was proposing, is he said, then you can take that $25,000 and you can pay your health insurance premiums. And then you can pay for your co-pays and your deductibles when you go to the doctor. And if you've got enough money saved up in that account to pay your health insurance premiums and your co-pays and so forth, you can use it to pay for your gym membership, or you can use it to even buy better quality food at home. Ooh. Or an exercise, by any of these kind of things. So in other words, it gives us the ability to spend our own money on our own health care instead of the government telling us the health care that we're going to spend on.
Interesting.
And so I think that's a really key tool, and that's something that Eric was trying to facilitate.
Yeah.
So that's just a little something I experienced with him. By the way, one final thing I'll say. I see people all the time talking about how Congressman Burleson, he won't do town halls. He doesn't talk to people and so forth. Hey, folks, he's available. He's in the Ozarks every week. All you have to do is call his office. Now, if you sound like a shrieky radical, guess what? You're not going to get to talk to him. But if you sound like a reasonable person who wants to have a conversation with their representative because they have concerns, I have found that Steve and Noah and all the people over at his office, as well as Eric himself, are very available and very willing to sit down and have conversations. So if you approach it the right way, you're going to find that they're good citizens waiting to take good care of you.
Good to know, Barry. I'm glad you brought that up. And being the former, always a news guy, of course, stay tuned for more headlines on will we have national health savings accounts and what will happen with those Obamacare subsidies. Watch for that and how that might affect you and your family. So he mentioned calling Congressman Burleson. You can search and find that number, and I'll give you the number for Barry. Call Barry. There's no screeching involved, right, Barry? No screeching, and very lovely tone of civility at 417-200-3500 to Barry Watts, 200-3500, and get a copy of Barry's book, Watts on Wealth, while you're there. Right, Barry?
You bet. We'll be happy to autograph a copy of the book for you.
Oh, very good. Hey, we're going to take a break. This is Ralph Hipp on the Baramy Show, Barry and Jeremy. We love getting together with you on Sunday mornings. We do. This is our best hour, one of our best hours of the day. We're going to get into your mailbag questions, and so no call required with any screeching voices. We're going to see what you're asking about there. Jeremy, you going to stick around with us for this final part?
Yeah, I will.
All right. So we'll take a break and back to your questions in the mail-in section of the show right after this.
Curious about securing your financial future? Barry Watts brings expertise to your retirement plans. Arrange a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Again, it's VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Market volatility can be daunting, but having a strategy in place can provide stability amidst the uncertainty. Consult with us to learn about approaches that address market ups and downs. Call 417-200-3500 to set an appointment and secure your financial footing. Again, just call 417-200-3500.
Well, I'd say about 98% of the time on the Barry Watts program, we end the show by going to some of your questions. What's on your mind in 2026? As I mentioned, we're going into the second year of the second Trump term. And what are your thoughts? So Bert from Buffalo, Barry writes in saying, longevity does not run in my family. Can I spend more of my money early and still be safe if I live longer than I expect to? So they generally do not live a long time in his family.
Well, Bert, I want you to think about that a little more deeply.
All right.
Because frankly, your question doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And here's why. Longevity doesn't run in my family. Okay, I get that. But what if you're the exception? And secondly, you ask, can I spend more early? Well, how much more? So the way I have to answer your question is no, this is not okay, because I have to plan. If I were your financial advisor, I have to plan on you living to be 100 years old, whether you do or not. And who knows whether you will. Now, if you came in with a terminal diagnosis and you've got some atrocious disease that everyone who has it dies within 5 years, well, we'll trim that back and we'll try to have the biggest 5 years possible for you. But for most people, just saying, well, it doesn't run in my family to live longer, so I want to spend more money earlier. Can I just do that? Here's what you have to do instead, Bert. You've got to set up an income bucket strategy. You've got to have a bucket for your go-go years where you're going to be spending money here early in retirement, but you've got to have a reserve backup bucket behind you to provide for that income stream and keep filling your go-go bucket. And the way we do that is we build a retirement income plan. And when we build that retirement income plan, it shows exactly when you'll run out of money and exactly how much income you'll have every year. It'll show exactly how much tax you're going to have to pay. And we can tell you even exactly what you would have to do to stretch your money far enough to have it last to be 100 years old, just in case the doctor comes up with some new magic potion and says, hey, Bert, good news for you. We're going to help you live longer.
Yeah. And well, Barry, haven't you mentioned before, even in your own family, how the longevity has changed between your grandfather and your father and now you?
Dad died. No. Granddad died at 65.
Well, that's not very long.
Yeah, because I'm almost there. Dad is alive, kicking, and going strong. He's got a back problem, but he's still going strong. Going to be 83 here in about 4 months.
That's big.
And so, if I make a similar kind of jump, that's going to put me to what, like about 100 years old. It's amazing how longevity is happening not in incremental ways, but in leaps and bounds with every generation.
Yeah,
Your generation, you certainly could see 120.
I could. Oh, wow. Who knows? But yeah, we're all living a lot longer, even just in the life of Social Security. I talk about that in my class, but we're living a lot longer than we expect, longer than our grandparents and longer than our parents.
Okay, back to your questions out there in Radio Land. And Donita and Clever is asking both of you, our neighbor's son wants to sell us some life insurance. My husband says no. Would it be bad to have some extra coverage? And guys, we also have that issue of, will the neighbors be upset if you tell their son no? But on the topic of life insurance, where do you weigh in on that?
Oh, boy.
Hey, Jeremy,
they said they didn't want any of my son's coverage. Yeah, it could be tough.
They probably understand, is my guess. I don't know if you know Donita down at Clever. Do you know her dad?
I have no idea who.
Her dad's name is Don.
Oh, really?
That's how she got to be Donita.
Donita.
Yeah, guys that want to name one after him and only have girls, they can't name him Donald Jr. They have to figure out how to name her something that's kind of like Donald, and so they come up with Donita. So I'm going to guess that Donita's dad is named Don. So the question is, neighborhood kid wants to sell us life insurance. My husband says no. Is it a bad idea to have extra coverage? Here's what I would say, Donita. It's a reasonable chance that your husband might be right. Let me tell you how the insurance companies work, how the insurance business starts. They go recruit young men and women right out of college, and they paint them a big, big picture of all the money they can make in the insurance business. And they make sure that they take them out to a big, expensive steak dinner at the finest restaurant in town, and they haul them in the finest automobile possible, and they paint the picture, all of this can be yours if you'll just sign up and become an agent with our company. And then when they do sign up, the first thing they have them do is sit down and make a list of 100 people, family, friends, neighbors. Donita, that's how you got on the list. And those are the people then they're going to begin calling, and they then train these new insurance people to call those 100 folks and try to set up appointments and get the chance to review their insurance policies with them and so forth. So to the question of, is it bad to have some extra coverage, or the bigger question, do I need any additional life insurance? Well, I have no idea, Donita, because I haven't seen your situation. I will tell you, I'm a life insurance fan. I personally have life insurance, even at 62 years old, with all my debts paid off, because I'm using life insurance for its tax benefits and the way it allows me to pass assets on to my family tax-free. And I think that's a really important thing. In fact, one of the things that life insurance can do is it can provide liquidity, cash if you need it. It can provide income replacement tax-free, and it can provide legacy benefits like we were talking about. And if you properly structure it, using accelerated death benefits, it can even cover the costs of long-term care or in-home care. So I like life insurance a lot. I'm pretty sure the young fella coming to talk with you about it won't know about all of those extra things it can do, and probably has a policy to sell you that doesn't do all of those things. So it's kind of a mixed bag, Donita. In order to be a nice neighbor, you might go ahead and invite the kid over, have a pie baked or some cookies baked and serve them up to him, and go through his process and finish it by saying, well, we're just going to have to think about it. Or even better yet, say, I don't think it's a fit for us, or I don't think we can afford it. And maybe that gets you off the hook so you don't have to deal with a neighbor kid.
That's a great way to deal with it. Good advice, Barry, on that. Okay, and next question. Barry, we were giving money to our kids for Christmas. I don't mean a $100 bill of Ben Franklin in one of those cute little bank envelopes there. I mean meaningful amounts. But I've heard if I give too much to my kids, that causes a tax problem. So we're talking more than $100, some major amounts of money. Help them understand that.
Well, there's no tax problem giving money to your kids. In fact, you can give as much as you want to. But if you give beyond certain amounts, it does begin to have some tax implications. So, for example, the total value that you are allowed to give to an heir is $15 million. But if you give $15,001, on the $1, you're going to pay about 40 cents in taxes. And with every dollar after that $15 million, you're going to pay about 40%. So most folks, the $15 million will cover them. And for a husband and wife, that's $30 million that you're allowed to pass on to your heirs. Now you've got to have some proper estate planning structuring in order to make that happen. The maximum gift that you can give in any 1 year to anybody you want to without having to subtract it from the $15 million is $19,000. So think about this. If you have a child and that child is married, you could give your child $19,000 and you could give your child's spouse $19,000. And your spouse, your husband or wife, depending on who I'm talking to, could give the son or daughter $19,000 and could give $19,000 to their spouse as well. So 19,000 times 4 comes up with what?
$76,000.
$76,000 total dollars that you could give away to a married child and their spouse in 1 year, and it has no negative tax benefits if you do that. So this is something that I highly recommend for people who are wealthy. Our wealthier clients are already doing this every year to get money transferred to the next generation, and it's a good tool that you can use. Now, one thing I want to caution you on, just to be aware of, there are places that a trust could be helpful in giving assets away. And the place that exists most strongly, in my opinion, is if you're giving away more than $15 million. And so if your estate is north of $15 million, then you definitely need some estate planning work done, even a lot less than that. But at $15 million, it becomes tax related. And so that's just something I want to keep in mind. And if you need help with that, well, call us at WealthCare. That's the kind of stuff we do for folks.
Yeah, he's not, I wouldn't call you the tax man. You're the tax strategy man, Barry, at 417-200-3500, 200-3500 to Barry Watts. Well, we discussed this earlier. Our national debt's around $38 trillion, which is available to be taxed of the great wealth transfer. So that's where we are. I had a question of whether we might hit $40 trillion of debt this year. I'll save that question for another show because this person's asking, we know how much the government spends. How does that affect me? What do you think are some best ways to educate myself on protecting my wealth? And we did talk about Matt and Jeremy's classes, but what are some other ways, Barry?
Well, just this idea, best ways to educate myself. So I don't know. What are you going to do? I mean, go to the library and get lost in the section on traveling to Europe while you're on the way to the section on
go to the financial part,
which doesn't exist, by the way. I mean, how are you going to figure this out? Here's what you have to do. You have to submit yourself and learn at the feet of somebody who knows more than you do. And there are all kinds of people out there who know more than you do. I don't know who all of them are. I know there are many of them who purport to know more, who don't know more, and who give really bad advice on the internet. So where I would go if I were you is I'd start by reading my book. We'll send you a free copy of Watts on Wealth. It's my book that goes through the 6 steps to retirement confidence, talks about estate planning, talks about tax reduction. That'd be a great place for you to start. And so if you want to call our office at the number Ralph will give in just a moment, you'll be able to get a free copy of my book. We'll send it out to you, and I'll even autograph it before it goes out the door. You can even go to our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and look up Watts on Wealth, you'll find a number of videos we've made on these topics and how they all relate to you. And then we teach classes regularly all around Springfield and Southwest Missouri. Jeremy's already mentioned his Social Security and Medicare class. So there are lots of things that you can do that will be helpful to you. And I would encourage you to just look into those resources.
All right. That number, folks, as we wrap up our show is 417 in Springfield, 417 all around the Ozarks, Joplin and Springfield and beyond, 200-3500. And Barry, when you said you've got to submit yourself to learn at the feet of somebody who knows more than you do, that is biblical too. That is some New Testament stuff right there, I thought.
Well, you're right. You learned that in
learn at the feet. That's right.
So hey, it's been a great show today. We want to tell everybody, go ahead and get out of bed now, clean up your face, eat your breakfast, and you've got time to get down to the last service at church.
Very good. Hope you will do that. Hope you'll join us again next Sunday right here on the Talk 104.1 for Barry Watts and Jeremy Zickefoose. This is Ralph Hipp, and that's our Watts on Wealth radio show for this fine Sunday morning. Have a good week.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.